Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Militiaman and Crew here. Just want to say hello to everybody and welcome everybody to Militiaman and Crew with Patreon and our Discord chat room. Everybody that's been with us for quite some time now, it's right about a year now, and a happy anniversary to you, and thank you guys for your support. I appreciate it so very much. A little bit of pitter patter back and forth these days, but the bottom line is that here our Discord chat room is out of respect. It's out of kindness, and we treat people fairly, and we thank you for being respectful and to being kind and understanding that this is an evolutionary process. News comes in, comes and goes, and we do the best that we can to analyze it. That's what we do. And thank you so much for your support. All those that are still with us, thank you. I'm so glad that you're with us. It's an awesome time. But hey, let's move on to the upcoming meeting between the Iraq Central Bank and the U.S. Treasury next week. And in this particular one, it says regarding the dollar. There's two articles out and they're slightly different, and we'll just take a peek at what they mean and what they say. It says here that there's on Monday today, it's an expected meeting between the Central Bank of Iraq and the U.S. Treasury Department next week. Okay, so what are they going to be talking about? It sounds like they're going to be talking about the United States dollar and the work of banks in Iraq. I think we all know that there's been some things that are going on, and we'll touch bases on is that it looks like that the U.S. Treasury and the central bank are working with other countries to not liquefy, but they're actually populating banks with different currencies, foreign currencies, so that they have liquidity. That's where I was going with it. So by them doing currency swaps, etc., it's important that they do that so that when time comes to trade cross borders, that they have a pairing, if you will. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this. And keep in mind too that above and beyond what I just got through saying, not to get too much on a sidebar, the ongoing meetings since the 1st or the 31st of October and to present, there's been significant amount of meetings with the WTO, World Trade Organization, to facilitate trade in the future. And it's interestingly enough that we've talked about Azerbaijan and Iraq. Today they had an article that comes out about them having memorandums of understanding, and so let's just keep moving forward. But the bottom line is that you can just see the process. The process is so profound. It is not even close to what it was in 2016, 2018, 2020, etc. Up till today. Like I said in my last video or two before, if you haven't watched them, I suggest you do. But the Ministerial Council of Economics got started in November, about a year ago today. And the progress that we've seen up till today is it's outstanding. It's phenomenal. So, keep aside that pitter patter is really kind of it's weak. Okay. Moving forward, it says the government sources with an agreement concluded recently between the Central Bank of Iraq and the American side resulted in an increased number of banks that can directly enhance the dollar balance to 10 banks, 5 of which are with Citibank. We all know who Citibank is, and the other 5 are through JP Morgan. Okay, and they've done all of this already. From what it sounds like, it says that they've revealed that the Iraqi banks will also have balances with the Chinese yuan, which will be strengthened through the Singapore Development Bank. Sounds like they've increased those up to 13 banks, and then while there's a number of other banks with the Indian rupee and the Singapore Development Bank, but they also strengthened others that are coming on maybe within a week or so. So they're just going to keep moving forward with the saturation of foreign currencies for that liquidity. Because why? They're going to do trade with all these different countries, and they're going to need currency, pairing of currencies. That's how the Forex works. So let's see how these guys go. Basically, populating banks with foreign currencies is for a purpose that is likely a precursor of what's coming. Those are my words, because I think that's what that is. It is a precursor. Okay, liquidity is likely to be in place for exchange rate exchange. Okay, TAFE Sammy stopped internal transfers today. We're going to talk about that. Final accounts are likely to have been started. Completion of the automation of new banking systems. These guys are talking about all this. It is phenomenal. And yes, we didn't see this last week. We didn't see it 6 months ago, nor did we see it 10 years ago. So everything that you're seeing in these days, since probably November of last year, progressively, if you go back in time and you come into our forum, Patreon, right, you can see that Militiaman and Crew have data that supports all the stuff that we talked about. All of this stuff is in there. Come see it, check it out. That's where the value is. Check it out. It says here on this particular one, it says an upcoming meeting between the Iraqi Central Bank and the U.S. Treasury next week. They don't say anything about the dollar, so it's two different articles, just two different topics, or in a sense, two different authors writing them. It says an upcoming meeting between the Central Bank of Iraq and the U.S. Treasury Department next week. And they just basically state that. But they go so far as to remind you that what I've hammered home many times in my videos, in our postings, in the forum, and in Discord chat room, and like I said, in the videos, and probably even some of the audios that we have archived that everybody can see in the Discord chat room if you're a member. So come join us, check it out. It says that on last September 19th, 2023, a New York Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani informed the U.S. Treasury Undersecretary of the expansion of the government's work in reducing money laundering operations, while the latter indicated that, confidence of global financial institutions had been restored. This was back in the UN assembly meetings in the U.S., So the confidence of global financial institutions have been restored. I just mentioned a little bit ago that when they said this about the financial institutions being restored, who were they talking about? They were talking about J.P. Morgan and other banks. So check it out. All of that stuff, it says here, to back this up, it says that in January, to take full credit for this, think about it. Al-Sudani mentioned in excerpts from a special interview on the official channel of the broadcast that he was on that evening. He says, quote, "We assure the citizens that they do not acquire the dollar." And that the dollar, forgive me, you guys. It says, "We assure citizens they do not acquire the dollar, and that the dinar is stronger." Adding, "We will return the dollar to its official price, save it, and we will accustom merchants and businessmen to legitimate trade." That was on the January 31st, 2023. That's down here at the bottom. You can see that, all right? That's a snippet that I have. And if you guys can do your little search and pitter-patter that about. All right. It says Al-Alaq says the rise in the exchange rate in his time and the project to delete the zeros still exists. When was that? That was in July 26, 2023. So the plan is still underway. It hasn't changed. It's a dynamic and fluid circumstance. We had the Bank of International Settlements come out and talk about highly complex financial transactions, talking about shocks, warning people. Like I said, when the Bank of International Settlements talks to all central banks, because they are the central bank of the world, central banks listen. And we can see that there's some fireworks going on, I'm assuming, in the background. It says here, it says, giving the approach at the end of the fiscal year and the implementation of the government program to automate work. This is coming from the Ministry of Finance. Basically today was the suspension of transfers and placements among the formations. That's the article. It goes on to say that the general directors suggesting the suspension of transfers and placements among the ministry formations and between the ministry and parties is attributed until the completion of automation and the application of the aforementioned system, which is a banking system. Because what are they doing? They're implementing something with a comprehensive system in the banks. So the banks have something new, right? It says the application of the aforementioned system is looking to be for who? Those with competence and experiences. They have the experience to do so. So when they use these words like automate the work, comprehensive banking system, attributed to the completion of an automation to that aforementioned system, for who? For those that have the competence and experience, okay? Phenomenal. So as you can see, there's things happening as we speak. Just one thing after another. I can't imagine anybody being discouraged at this time because of the nature of what's happening. Here's Al Nasuri. He's an advisor to the Private Banks Association. His article basically states that the central bank's new measures to regulate foreign trade are the beginning of banking reform and an end to the exchange rate crisis. An end to the exchange rate crisis. Well, what's the crisis? It's been at 1310 since the early part of February or early part of 2023, right? They devalued to 1460 time back, then they adjusted it by 10%. What's not good about that? What did it prove? That adjustment that the World Bank was talking about of 10.3% is actually a positive sign, because what did it do? It staved off inflation for how long? Well, they showed close to a year. Okay, so there's some positive aspects to some of these things that we're talking about. Revaluations happen and they need to be tested. We have so much different data. We have so much different technology that we never had before. So ultimately, all those currencies, all those different countries, all of them being placed are considered currency swaps as far as I can see. And they bring liquidity, again, a precursor. TAFE SAMI slowing down, stopping transfers at this time is what? Shut it down, freeze the accounts, do your audits, and let's move forward, because that's what we're seeing. It's fascinating. Again, those fireworks are phenomenal. That's what I see. It says here, the advisor to the Private Bankers Association, Samir Al-Nasuri, confirmed that the central bank measures, understandings and, with the Federal Reserve, they basically are working with correspondent banks and their accounts, and they're opening them to enhance what? The balances in the US dollar, the Chinese yuan, the European euro, the Indian rupee, the UAE dirham, etc. Why? Because they're going to provide that liquidity to do what? End the exchange rate crisis. They're going to get rid of the parallel market. That's how I see it. I think everybody should see it that way. It goes on to say that the U.S. and the U.S. Central and Federal Bank has done this for the Iraqi banks to carry out external transfers by covering their external transfers. Sounds like pairing currencies back and forth from correspondent banks. Big deal. Correspondent banks probably getting rid of what? The remittances to do what? Direct banking. Correspondent banks directly without going through the electronic platform. Says it right there. Bingo. That's huge. Okay. And this method, if it will shorten the external transfer period, ensure that the transfer reaches the final beneficiary through quick mechanisms. What is that? That's the electronic platform. How long does it take? Like that. Once this is all said and done, I don't know if you guys have your checking account set up where you screenshot your check, it's deposited like that. Fairly certain this is going to be something similar, but yet not just between internal banks and you, but globally with trade. I think it's pretty fabulous, right? It goes on to say, it says that there's an implementation of new agreements will begin in the coming days and weeks. So ultimately, these guys, Al Samuri, Private Banks Association, leading head, has new agreements that will begin in the coming days or weeks. Well, it says coming days and weeks. And these measures will certainly be reflected in controlling the movement of the US dollar in the black market. other term for it is actually parallel market. Okay, so they're basically going to be reducing the demand for it. So if everybody's going to be using the euro, they're going to be using the European or the Indian rupee, the Chinese yuan, the dollar, the dirham. They're going to still use those for legitimate trade on an electronic platform that they have monitored. And if those people that don't want to do that, they're going to be isolated. Therefore, the new agreements are likely to have these new instructions and mechanisms that will achieve a success. That's my view. Central bank has begun making plans and taking measures since the beginning of this year, so this is nothing new. Beginning of the year, what did I say? I said the MCOE, Ministerial Council of Economics, got started when? November of last year, but since the beginning of this year, they've been taking measures, okay, to calmly, wisely, and with support of the government and the Association of Private Banks to get this facility done. That's insane. They're increasing the capital to the banks up to the tune of almost $500 billion. 400 billion. That's pretty close. Okay, so their national strategy is completely 100% underway, and we're watching it. There's a new card that's out, right? So it's for the citizens. It says Iraq's gateway company Switch announced measures to produce user data in compliance with instructions of the central bank, while indicating that this measure comes to verify the actual card user. So what does this mean? It says starting on Tuesday, November 21st, which is tomorrow, all users of the card will have to update their personal data through application. It says the update is like it's live. It's basically based off of taking a picture of yourself, a selfie, if you will, to, imprint your face, right? In addition to necessary personal documents, including biometric fingerprint data and approving the unified card. So you've got some actions to take care of, but they're going to know their customer. They're going to know what you look like, what your fingerprints are, and all your personal data. And so if you're not going to do it, I guess you're going to find that it might be hard to do some transactions in Iraq. We'll see how that goes. It says after updating the data, the customer will be able to use all the services provided by the application. The biometric fingerprint face, selfie if you will be necessary to complete the operations provided by the application, including MoneyGram transfers and services. Well, wasn't MoneyGram and what's the other one? You guys all know who it is. But look, we all know that money moving across borders is going to take some know your customer, and that's what they're doing. Okay. It goes on to say that the update will not affect the process of using the card for any purchases from electronic payment machines inside or outside Iraq. So if you're going to be doing international transfers of money inside and outside, something's up. It says inside or outside or inline purchases and cash withdrawals from ATMs. So you can get cash inside and outside Iraq with limits specified based on the instructions of the central bank. Switch called on its customers to update their data as soon as possible to enjoy a better and safer experience with the Switch. Okay, so the Switch card is a biometric card. It allows you to get money from inside and outside of Iraq. And that starts tomorrow. That's interesting. I think it's fascinating. Okay, and then all of a sudden on the same day, the Raffidain Bank, I think, which has maybe some issues with the central banks, we'll see, but it says the Raffidain Bank announced the launch of purchasing a card for all state institutions. So this is basically a card that's for the state institutions, so it's not for your general public. It's basically for the institutions to be able to use the card, and there's restrictions to it. For instance, it's not possible to withdraw cash from the card, so your average Joe can't go to the gas station and get some cash. Okay, your average Joe can't go outside the country with the card. Okay, they're not going to get charged for shopping, for instance. So if you're working for the specific institution and you're going to need to buy some food for the cafeteria, for instance, you can still do that. And you're not going to get a commission. There's zero commission for the shopping portion of it. Depositing funds into the card and use them exclusively for purchasing purposes only, of course. And the card is a debit type, for instance, so it taps right directly to the bank. So anyway, citizens get all that stuff. So these are some of the issues that we've been to. It says, look, there's an upcoming meeting with the CBI and the UST, basically suggesting that the dinar is stronger than the dollar. Those were al-Sudani's words, if you remember. Al-Alaq basically indicated this year that the 000 project, deletion of the 000 project exists. So that was the beginning of what we've talked about. Secondly, the Ministry of Finance suspension of transfers. They're all of a sudden shutting it down, doing their audits, doing that sort of thing. Then the advisor, Nasseri, comes out and says we have liquidity for the banks. We have 5 with JP Morgan, 5 with Citi in respect to what? Other people's currencies. So basically what is it doing? It's ending the dollar crisis, they call it, with the black market or the parallel market. They're doing currency swaps so that they have liquidity. There's new agreements that they're going to be exposed here shortly. The switch card is fascinating because what? It's a biometric card, fingerprints, facial recognition, et cetera, et cetera. It can be used outside the country. And lastly, that we went over tonight, which is phenomenal too, is that the state institutions have a new card and it's electronic for purchases within the country. So all of these things that we bring up are fascinating. They're in the news today. And I think we should be excited to see that what's coming up next is going to be I think it's called, well, it's a conference with the WTO, and it's going to have the private sector, and that's going to take place, I believe, on the 27th and the 28th. And then again, the WTO has some other information that talks about education for a session, what the rules and regulations are about. That's going to be on the 4th. So take that into consideration, because if you remember what they talked about between the 11th and the 14th, the WTO talked about post a session. So put those bits and pieces into your thinking cap and go, wait a second. So if they're talking about post a session, this meeting with Azerbaijan, the meeting with Iraq, there's just 2 of those countries. Is there more? I would suggest there probably are. At this moment, the lead on is that those 2 made conditions. They have subcontracting going on with the WTO. We're going to find out about that stuff. It's going to be fascinating. So I hope everybody enjoys my content. I think all the new folks, you guys probably need to understand that all you have to do is like my content. And if you'd like to subscribe to my forum, you can come be a member, or you can tap that like button and subscribe with my YouTube. But also remember that we have some vehicles that are to help content keep flowing. We use Zelle, we use Venmo, and we use PayPal. Okay, so anything else I could give you tonight is, hey, appreciate all of you being here with me. All of your support is fascinating. I really do appreciate everybody. It's great. Thank you for all the comments. Having a 99% tile like is amazing, you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.